Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be unboxing and reviewing the Veymax Merlin electric skateboard. This is a boosted style street electric skateboard that currently retails for $649 and normally retails for $839. With this style and in this price range, the Merlin aims to compete with key competitors including the Meepo Envy, the Walgo Pioneer X4, and the Backfire Zealot S. So jumping right into the unboxing, the Merlin came double boxed with a thick outer box and a thinner custom graphic inner board box. The board was very well packaged in custom foam cutouts and arrived in perfect condition. Beneath the board and an additional layer of foam, we find the included accessories. First up is the Veymax sticker set, which is a nice touch for customizing your gear. Next we have the remote control, which is a Lingyi model. I particularly appreciate its compact form factor and ergonomic design, making it comfortable to hold and intuitive to use. However, the plastic casing feels somewhat fragile and the overall build quality lacks a little refinement, giving it a less premium feel. That said, the inclusion of a live data display is a valuable feature, providing real-time insights that enhance the riding experience. Veymax have included a spare set of 250mm belts for the board, which are essential for inevitable board maintenance and replacement later on. Alongside that, there is a standard T-tool, which is a must-have for board adjustments. A subtle but thoughtful addition is this spare lanyard, which can be attached to the remote for a pop of color and added security. Next is the charger, which has a nice smooth finish and minimalist design that I quite like. The charger charges at a rate of 3 amps, which is a little faster than the typical 2 amps on many boards in this price range. The charge port is this 3-pin connector, which has become increasingly popular on electric skateboards over the last year. The charger also comes with a standard US wall power adapter. An unexpected but welcome addition was this bag of replacement bolts, which will come in handy as the board begins to show signs of wear. Finally, we have a USB-C cable for charging the remote controller. And that's everything. Here's a closer look at all of the accessories included with the Veymax Merlin. With the unboxing done, we are now going to take a first look at the board and go over all of the components used. First, we have the deck. This deck is 37.8 inches long and 9.8 inches wide at its widest point. The outline of the deck is similar to boosted style builds, with a nose and tail that are a little more squared off. This deck is made from 2-ply Canadian maple, 2-ply fiberglass, and 2-ply bamboo, and it has a standard grip tape with Veymax Merlin branding on it. Unlike many other boards in this style, the Merlin has no camber with a very neutral resting point. The deck concave is also pretty mild with a mellow progressive concave. To prevent damage from collisions, the deck also has a protective rubbery plastic nose and tailguard. The wheels are 90mm in diameter with a nice wide 60mm contact patch. They feature an ABEC-like core and are 78A in durometer, which is quite soft for a comfortable ride. Moving over to the trucks, the Merlin uses what they call their refiner trucks. These are 8-inch wide 45-degree RKP trucks made from cast A356. They look pretty sleek and are equipped with 16mm tall 95A Duro barrel bushings. Shifting over to the drivetrain of the board, the Merlin utilizes a pretty typical belt drive setup. All of the mechanical components look typical for a dual belt drive board, with simple and effective CNC machine mounts and a plastic belt cover. The motors are 50mm in diameter and each have a maximum power rating of 1,400 watts for a combined maximum power rating on the board of 2,800 watts. Now transitioning to the electronics, the Merlin features a standard split enclosure setup seen on many similar boards. The front enclosure holds the battery while the rear enclosure holds the ESC, enabling the deck to flex in the middle. The battery is a 12S2P made from Samsung 50S cells for a total capacity of 432 watt-hours. This is a very high quality and high capacity battery for a board in this price range and is arguably one of the selling points to the board. The charge port for the battery is located on the inner side of the front enclosure under a rubber cap. The ESC used is the Lingyi 8.0 ESC. Veymax and Lingyi collaborated to tune this ESC for the board to ensure smoothness, which is essential. My experience with the Lingyi ESCs has been varied, with some being great and others being quite jerky, so knowing some tuning went into this board is good to hear. The power switch for the board is located on the bottom of the rear enclosure right next to a board battery indicator. The rear enclosure also features heat sinks to keep the ESC running cool. I feel the need to comment on the enclosures on the Merlin, which are some of the quirkiest and most interesting aesthetic designs that I've seen. The front enclosure has a completely squared off front and is remarkably boxy looking. The rear enclosure is even more fascinating. First, the back of the enclosure is taller than the front, giving a sloped profile from the side. The outline of the enclosure is pretty close to a pentagon, with a nub that sticks out of the back and relatively sharp edges. The heatsink placement and design is perhaps the oddest design, being recessed inside another set of walls around the enclosure. The enclosures are up there in terms of uniqueness, though I would not consider them to be the most aesthetic or sleek options. Overall, having gone over all of the components, the construction on this board seems solid, and the component selection is on par with what I expected for a board around $600. The standout component to me is the 12S2P50S 432 Wh battery, which is remarkable given the price point of this board. The review section of this video is split into categories that detail the important specs and aspects to this board. These can be skipped to easily using the chapters built into this video. The first subject is the top speed, and Veymax claims that the Merlin has a top speed of 30 miles per hour. Based on our experience with the board and our speed tests, we were only able to hit 28 miles per hour or 45 kilometers an hour, which is a little slower than advertised. 28 miles per hour is at the level to expect for a $600-ish board, though there are some options that go a little faster stock out of the box. I personally could have used a little bit more top speed as I felt comfortable and stable maxing out the board. Asking for more than 28 miles per hour on a mid-level board is getting a little picky, and for the most part 28 miles per hour was more than enough. If you want to get more speed, a simple wheel upgrade to something larger would do the trick. Overall, the top speed met my expectations for the price, but it should be noted that the true top speed is not as advertised on their website. Second, we have the range of the board, and Veymax claims that the Merlin has a range up to 29 miles tested by a real 75 kilogram or 165 pound rider. Range is subject to a variety of factors, so it is expected to fluctuate significantly. Based on our range test with an 150 pound rider in 60 Fahrenheit degree weather on moderately hilly terrain in the highest speed mode the entire time, we were able to get 16 miles or 26 kilometers out of the board. I would definitely consider this a worst case on the Merlin, and would anticipate that most riders get a little bit more out of the board. 29 miles definitely seems like an absolute best case that is highly unlikely, but I would imagine that most riders could achieve over 20 miles depending on how they ride. The high quality, high capacity battery is definitely one of the selling points of this board, but testing did not seem to indicate that the board has more range than the competition with slightly smaller batteries. Thus, despite being at the top of the pack in terms of battery size, the range actually seems to be average compared to similar boards that we've tested. Third, we have the hill climbing ability of the board, which is one of the big arguments for choosing a belt drive entry-level board over a hub motor board. Veymax claims that the Merlin can climb slopes up to 35%, which we were not able to explicitly test. Based on our experiences, the board performs very well on hills and was easily able to climb every hill that we tested it on. Many boards in this price range struggle on hills, but the Merlin proved to be very capable. The difference between a mid-budget belt drive board like the Merlin and a budget hub option is night and day, as this board comfortably speeds up hills. In this footage, the board makes it up a 10-degree hill at 16 miles per hour maxed out, which isn't bad at all. It's no high-performance board, but it doesn't feel painful anytime you encounter a hill like budget options. The hill climbing performance off the board was among the best that I've tried under $650 and is a solid bet in this category. The fourth aspect is the acceleration and braking, which is a major factor in how intuitive and enjoyable the ride feels. My experience with the Lingy ESCs and remotes has been mixed, but the Merlin was a generally positive experience. The acceleration and braking felt relatively smooth, intuitive, and predictable, which is what I look for on an entry-level board. One thing that I noticed about the acceleration is that it sometimes feels like it shifts gears and jerks ever so slightly. It's really subtle and almost undetectable, but I was able to feel it at times when I really paid attention. There are some smoother boards out there in terms of acceleration, but the Merlin is still smooth enough for me. The bigger issue that I have with the acceleration and board control overall is the startup on hills. If the board is rolling backwards and you try to hit the throttle to go back up the hill, the motors jitter a little bit before finally kicking in. On a well-tuned board with a smooth acceleration, the transition from the motors moving backwards to forwards is more seamless. This is not a major issue in my book, but it is an indicator of the quality of the board being a little bit lower. On a positive note, the Merlin features 4 acceleration modes and 4 brake modes, which can be independently set from one another. This adjustability is perfect for beginners looking to ease into the ride while still offering enough flexibility for more experienced riders. In the highest acceleration mode, the Merlin impressed me. It's quicker off the line than I expected, adding a little bit of excitement without being overwhelming. While the initial boost off the line is strong, the acceleration tapers off significantly after that initial punch. The high-end torque is also not particularly strong, so once cruising, the acceleration is mild. While it's not the level of a high-performance board, it still packs enough of a punch to keep things interesting. The braking is equally strong and reliable, offering consistent stopping power without feeling too abrupt. Overall, the Merlin controls are good enough to feel smooth for most riders, while having plenty of performance to keep the ride engaging. Next on the docket is the ride feeling and comfort of the board, which is a subjective topic given everyone has their own preferences. From my experience, this is where the cheaper boards struggle as vendors cut corners to keep costs down. However, the Merlin surprised me and felt like a cohesive board with components that work together to create a good ride feeling. The deck's length and width provided a stable and comfortable stance, while the shallow concave was easy on the feet. I personally could do with a little more concave to feel locked in, as I did have some difficulty carving or turning hard. The Merlin deck with these split enclosures is decently flexible and played a huge role in vibration dampening, acting like a built-in suspension to smooth out rough terrain. The deck has a responsive, springy feel with just the right amount of pop. It's flexible enough to absorb shocks and keep the ride comfortable, yet stiff enough to maintain stability at higher speeds. The 78A Duro 90mm wheels also proved to be soft and large enough to make for a comfortable ride. While they aren't the most premium wheels out there, they were up to par on grip and smoothness. A belt drive also means real full drive wheels, which is a huge difference maker. I had far fewer issues than expected when traversing rough roads, cracks, bumps, and debris in the road. This board is a noticeable upgrade over budget options because it's a belt drive. Overall, the Merlin handled unpredictable terrain well, delivering a smooth and enjoyable ride that exceeded my expectations for its price range. I enjoyed the trucks on this board and found them quite stable at high speed. The 95A bushings and shallow concave deck can be a challenge for the optimal carving experience, but I was still able to have a fun time on the board. I would describe the carving experience as average, with nothing really to write home about here. Overall, the Merlin feels like a cohesive package for its price, with a good blend of comfort, stability, and the ability for fun while carving. Our final chapter is the miscellaneous topics section, where we discuss other key observations that we've had on the board. First, I wanted to touch on the noise. Boards these days have become very quiet, but the Merlin is probably the loudest street board that I've tried recently. The motors make a loud whirring during acceleration and braking, which you can hear in the audio here. The noise alone is not a huge problem for me, but it is important to be aware of, as it can attract additional attention when riding, which can be a bad thing. Next, I wanted to touch on the waterproofing of the board. The Merlin has an IP55 rating, which is generally good for light rain and mild splashing on the board. However, this board is not waterproof by rating and should not be ridden in heavy rain. Some waterproof rating is definitely a plus and a good thing to have if need be, but I would not rely on this board being rideable in the rain. So here are our concluding thoughts after riding the Veymax Merlin electric skateboard for the last few weeks. Overall, this is a really solid board given the $649 price point. With a top speed of 28 miles per hour, a range near 20 miles, and hill climbing and acceleration performance that match the marks expected in this price range, the Merlin checks the boxes for a solid mid-budget e-board. Unlike many cheaper options, the Merlin utilizes a premium 12S 2P Samsung 50S battery and comes in a cohesive package that yields an enjoyable riding experience with the springy deck. I would recommend considering the Merlin if you're looking for a first electric skateboard or an upgrade from an entry-level hub motor board. That's all I have for this review on the Veymax Merlin electric skateboard. If you're interested in learning more about this product, we will have a link to it in the description below. If you have any questions or comments regarding this board or suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comment section. Finally, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more electric skateboard reviews. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you all in the next video.